Good morning, welcome back to Morning at 10 TV, and today we are having a big discussion on transparency and accountability in service delivery. We are seeing us being taxed left, right, center, great new, proposals of taxations. There are now in effect social media, mobile tax, mobile money taxation, and many other taxations that we'll be speaking about later on. And so the big question that the public is asking, there is a big gap between all the money that is being collected to service delivery. What happens in between? We've been having big cases of corruptions, and so that's the discussion we'll be having today. And just to disseminate all that and to get more insight into this particular topic is Mr. Gerard Pade Auk from the Transparency International Uganda. He is the programs officer right there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you too. Happy to be here at NTV.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Let's get first Transparency International Uganda's take on this particular new taxes that we are seeing being implemented. For you as Transparency International Uganda, what's your take? Are you for it? Are you against it?
Yeah, thank you very much for hosting me at NTV this morning. I wouldn't say the tax is good or is good. But of course, the most important thing is that do we get value for money, especially in these taxes. I know government is trying to expand the tax base so that we're able to generate enough resources to be able to facilitate the services that government is supposed to offer. But the question here is, to what extent is government able to really account to the citizens so that they have value, they're able to realize that the taxes that they pay contribute extensively to the services that they are entitled to receive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the big discussion we were having, and so members of the public were saying, just in case, if we were seeing, this translating to great service delivery, we wouldn't have a problem with paying the taxes. But the issue is we're paying taxes upon taxes and we're not seeing something happen. As Transparency International Uganda, you are at the forefront of, making sure that this different ministries and these leaders are held accountable. How far have you been able to reach in terms of preaching anti-corruption messages to the government, so to speak?
Well, as stated, Transparency International Uganda has, for over 25 years, been able to contribute towards the fight against corruption. And on some of the aspects that we have done in terms of ensuring that the government, both right from the local level, called it the local government, as well as the national level, should be able to be accountable to the citizens. As such, we have done a lot of advocacy. We do research, of course, that informs our intervention. A lot of gaps have been identified at advocacy level, and we have engaged ministries, departments, and agencies to the areas where we feel they need to be improved in order to ensure that the government that we believe in should be able to really be transparent and accountable to the citizens. That said, we have programs that are geared towards creating awareness amongst the citizens so that they're able to really realize it is their right, constitutional rights to demand for accountability. And over time, we have seen all over the country people, demanding these services, and we are hoping moving forward that in the long run we should be able to see increasing number of citizens demanding for accountability from their respective leaders at different levels.
You've said that citizens demanding accountability from their leaders is key when it comes to holding them accountable.
Yeah, sure.
How then can citizens go about it? Fine, we've been seeing a group of people going out in the streets in protest, of different issues when it comes to the government, its duties, its accountability, and also, matters to do with transparency. But is it just is protest the only way that public can go out to hold the leaders accountable? What other channels can the public, you know, take advantage of just to raise awareness and also to bring these leaders accountable to, you know, the actions?
Yeah, the most important thing is that one, the citizens should be able to realize their right, and secondly, for them to be able to do that, they should be able, the government should be able to avail the necessary information. As you are aware, we have numerous laws that should be able to help us in the fight against corruption. Mm-hmm. We have Access to Information Act of 1995. Is it
1995?
1995, yes. But the challenge that we get in this is that quite rarely does government share this information. And if they did, sometimes the process is lengthy. Secondly, we have the Whistleblowers Protection Act. We should be able to really facilitate the people to report corruption. Mm. When you look at the NRA manifesto, I think page 19, it clearly states that the government, call it the NRM party, is committed to the fight against corruption, and it goes ahead to state that moving forward, one of the strategies that they have to deploy to facilitate people from reporting is ensuring that they execute the Whistleblowers Protection Act. But we all know the challenges that come along with that. Right. And you see the act clearly states that the citizens, they have to be protected. Actually, the whistleblowers, so to say, have to be protected whenever they whistleblow or whenever they report corruption. Mm-hmm. But over time, we have seen this not implemented, and somehow has slowed the already existing strategies in the fight against corruption. Mm. But of course, as an organization, is something that we keep pushing, that, you know, we have all these pieces that we have in place. Why shouldn't we implement as government?
Most of the times it's these whistleblowers that are taken in as criminals, so to speak, because you told them, how do you know, you know? So can whistleblowers come to Transparency International to report cases of corruption?
Oh yeah, yes, they can, because one of the our mandate as an organization is to facilitate as much as possible to ensure that people are able to to express their grievances.
Right.
As such, we encourage the citizens to always reach out to us if they cannot, for example,
go through police.
Go to police, go to IGG, and so forth. So when they report to us, it's then our mandate to analyze what has been reported, but also we have a list of stakeholders that we work with, and maybe for purposes of information is that our strategy is to try as much as possible to work with government at different levels. So when we receive certain information, it's our mandate to report. We actually write to whichever office that is concerned to follow the matter up, and when we do that, our role is, of course, to continue following up with whichever institution we reported to, as well as giving feedback to whoever reported. But in doing so, we try as much as possible to ensure that the identity of the person reporting is protected. Yes. Okay,
so the identity is protected, and you follow through that case.
Sure.
Right. Okay. Let me bring you up to speed with the 2017 East African Bribery Index report that put Uganda. Actually, Uganda topped the list in all the East African countries with Rwanda, Kenya, Burundi, Tanzania, and so Uganda and Kenya were the first and second, so to speak. And so this was a very high percentage on the bribery cases that this particular survey that was done in all the East African countries came up with. What's your take on that? Why are we still the ones who are up there and not following, in the routes and in the footsteps of countries like Tanzania, which have been able to bring down their bribery cases, so to speak?
Yeah, well, it's not true that Uganda is the most corrupt country in East Africa.
We have Kenya and Uganda going head to head.
Yeah, Kenya and Uganda, of course, definitely are going head to head.
Yes.
But the worst performing country in regard to, you know, taking in bribery and so forth is, of course, Burundi.
Right.
But as you said, Uganda and Kenya are head to head, and
Yes.
we do not know why. But basically, the issues are ranging from, of course, the poor pay of some of these public servants. So for example, the police. The police are the most prone, especially when it comes to bribery. And guess what? The money that they receive in form of bribe is very little money. You find that from our statistics, the match of which people pay is about 5,000 shillings, 10,000 shillings. And, you know, there is a mystery behind this. You have a policewoman, policeman who has left home. Perhaps there's nothing to be eaten, there's no food. You know, maybe children are supposed to be going to school. Here is someone who is offering a bribe, of course, which is not constitutional. It is illegal for even citizens to offer bribe. You look at the judiciary, and basically it is at the level of the chief magistrates that taking these bribes. Overall, you realize that across the region and even the world, it is police that are always at the top, the top of taking the bribery. And our findings, of course, the reason why police, because they interact with the citizens on a daily basis at different levels, and so to say. But as a country, if we, of course, as we went forward to ask whether the citizens have been able to report some of these bribes that are being demanded, some of the majority say that actually 8 out of 10 of the interaction that we had with the citizens did state that they did not report corruption. And when we asked them, when we went deeper, they did say asking them why they didn't report corruption. They said that one, they do not know where to report. Secondly, they knew that if they reported, no action would be taken. Right. So there are a lot of issues there, and they are right, so to say. And that's why, as an organization, we are now trying to invest a lot of energies in creating awareness among the citizens to be able, one, to report corruption, but also as they report, they should be able to know where, at different levels, they should be able to know where to report corruption. But also, we also encourage them that because of the fact that majority have lost confidence to our institutions, and they are saying that even if they reported, no action will be taken. We encourage them to report to institutions like us, like Transparency International Uganda, and of course, and other civil society organizations working on accountability sector, so that we're able to facilitate the process of ensuring that the officials, the culprits, are brought to book. And
that's a great point to note, that people can come through Transparency International to report cases of bribery, because you can imagine. It's hard to go to a police to report a bribery case against a police. Yeah, sure. And so also the public has lost confidence in the police sector. Do you have social media platforms or online platforms where people can, you know, complain and, you know, submit information on corruption and bribery issues via that platform instead of having to come all the way to your offices? Is that available, where if today I have a bad experience with police or I spot, you know, a corruption issue, then I can immediately submit my information?
Yes, we have social media platforms that we use as
so those are active?
An entity. Yes, they're active, and of course, why social media is that about 75% of our population is for young. Our population, 75% is young people, according to the statistics. So, and the majority of them are users of the social media. So we have social media platforms, and for some time now, we have seen the numbers increasing, especially for people reporting people that are reporting corruption.
And you're responsive
and
to the
yeah, we are
to the
responsive,
reports.
yes.
Right.
And then we also have a call center where we encourage people to report corruption, which we publicize and so forth.
Okay, so
yes.
social media is the best
yeah,
platform to go through.
Yeah, sure.
I'll bring you up to speed with another report still that was done in 2018 this year.
Yes.
And so this is the Global Corruption Perception Index.
Yes.
And so the survey was done across 180 countries, and Uganda was in position 151. Behind Rwanda, Tanzania, and Kenya. And so on a scale of 0 to 100, with 0 being, you know, the most corrupt and 100 being the least corrupt, so to speak. So it's 180 countries and we are at 151. Does it mean that we still have a long way to go when it comes to fighting corruption? Yes,
we definitely, as a country, we still have a long way to go. And for us, over time, when we engage in government, is that one, they should be able to implement the existing legislation. We have what it takes to fight corruption, whereas we have some bit of... Yes. Whereas we have some gaps in the law. But we have what it takes, apparently, to fight corruption. Remember, there is the Anticorruption Act was amended. That was amended in 2015.
Right.
That paves the way for confiscation, government to confiscate the properties of the corrupt. Of course, those are for those that have been found guilty.
Yes.
You see, that law was passed by Parliament, and I think the president assented to it. They signed it, but ever since that was done, it has been shelved. No one is speaking about it.
Exactly.
Yes. So those are the challenges that we those are the challenges that we have as a country.
Have you tried to push for it to be implemented?
We do.
What are you getting from the government? What is government telling you?
Of course, you know, sometimes for government to act takes some bit of time, and nowadays actually civil society organizations who have moved away from the confrontational aspect to engaging. Okay, we look at them as partners. We look at government as partners, and them being partners, we try as much as possible to engage them. But in engaging, sometimes the response is slow, sometimes it's faster, depending on the issue. Okay, but then the challenge that we have in that is that there's some bit of, you know, adamance, the low response, simply because most of them could be culprit in one way or the other. You see, those are the challenges. But that said, we also need, as government, for example, to be able to improve our ranking, both at the regional level and international level. It takes commitment. When you look at our president, say for example, when he was campaigning 2 years ago, or even when after assuming the office, one of the things that he pronounces that this Kisanja is not a joking one. This is a Kisanja, kuna mchezo, but little has been done in terms of seeing the words being translated into actions. So I think it takes leadership for us to be able to realize that. And you know, now the challenge that we have as a country, everything relies at the president's. The president has all the powers, and we have slowly seen our institutions not function and not executing their mandates, simply because it seems the president has taken it all, and somehow it has affected the quality of services, but also the confidence. There's limited confidence among our bureaucrats, our civil servants, especially when it comes to taking decisions. But also, that said, in terms of understanding the existing legislation, little is known among our bureaucrats. You find that, especially in local government, you get in there, you talk about specific pieces of legislations related to anti-corruption. They don't know. Right. And you know, this is something that we are doing as civil society. Actually, we engage local government so that they're able to understand some of these legislations and be able to really, you know, implement them. And I think that justifies why government, for example, should recognize the role played by both the civil society, the role played by the media, the role played by the private sector in the fight against corruption. And moving forward, one of the things that government has to do is to recognize the the importance of all actors, bring all actors on board so that we're able to discuss and come up with you know, action points on how best we should fight corruption. Countries that are doing well, you spoke about the CPI. New Zealand, for example. Right. Yeah, we should be able to look at some of these countries and borrow a leaf from them on how they've been able to really mitigate. Yeah. It's not true that most of these countries are 100% perfect. It's true. That's why you see in the score of, you find that 85%, actually the most performing country scored about 85%. Right, yes, 85%. Between 85% and 90%. And that's a great score. Yeah, that's a great score. But that still shows that whereas they are trying, but they also still have
a long way to go. 15%.
Yeah, sure.
What came out strongly is the poor performing countries in this particular survey had one thing in common, and that's the oppression of media freedom. Yes. What do you have to say about that? We've been saying just a few months ago we saw the media being roughed up by police. Yeah. Are you also with the media trying to support media freedom as Transparency International? Is it part of your great agendas, so to speak?
Yes, we recognize the role played by the media. You remember earlier enough I did note that, you know, media is equally very important, especially in disseminating information about corruption. And you see from our various surveys, we have also noted that people are informed. If you went to communities, for example, you find citizens, even the ordinary ones, the unschooled ones, discussing serious issues. True. And why? It's because of the media. And as an organization, actually, we have actually come up with these strategies. There's actually a manual that we developed as Transparency International that should be able to, you know, to build the capacity of the media to be able to report corruption. As you say that countries that are most corrupt are countries that actually oppress the media. Right. Because then when you're oppressed, you get timid, you get scared. Even if you have the facts in you, you fear to report. But also the other thing we say increasingly, the challenge that we say with the media that sometimes the people funding the media in form of adverts and so forth, people are corrupt. So sometimes even if they have been highlighted, have been named, the media might be hesitant to report. And that's why we are coming with all the initiatives to ensure that the media, for example, is on board, but also to build their confidence to be able to report corruption at all levels, right, irrespective of who is involved. Right. Even if the president is involved or cited, the media should boldly come up to inform the citizens this is what is happening. Yeah. But also the other thing that we're encouraging is investigative journalists. As a country, I think we are still lagging behind. I do not think it's only Uganda, but across the region, we still have to invest a lot of money on investigative journalists so that they're able to really, you know, dig deep into some of these scandals that we keep, you know, seeing happen in the region. Right. So those are some of the initiatives that we are deploying as an organization. And we have a manual in place. Yes. And I think those that we had contacts with, we have been able to share with them, but also we have engaged the Makerere University, especially Department on Journalism, to find a way of adopting some of those manuals so that it is inculcated into the curriculum manual. It has been argued that if a country is to fight corruption, then the president needs to be at the top of it. Yeah. Just the other day we saw Kenya, the Kenyan president, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, coming out to say that all the government officials need to go out and declare their wealth. And he also said, right after that, we had the deputy president, Mr. Ruto, come out to say that even me, I will declare my wealth. Yeah, sure. Do you think that's the right method? And do you feel like
Uganda, we as Ugandans can also borrow a leaf from that president to announce such a case? I know it was done before. He tried, he attempted, but there was no goodwill because most of the government officials felt like, I might be one of them. Do you feel that's the right and sure way to fight corruption?
Oh my God, that's the way to go, really, as you said, rightly stated. It has to start from the top.
Right.
Once the president says this is the way, this is the new life that we need to live in, the rest of the civil servants would respond, including the cabinet ministers. And the idea of declaring the wealth is inevitable. We have seen over time people accumulating wealth, but when you look at their salary, you wonder where the wealth is coming from. So. And Kenya is moving up there, but of course, if it is implemented, I hope it doesn't stop at just pronouncements.
Right.
You know, it's not the first time we are seeing leaders making such pronouncements and commitment. But that's the way to go.
Right.
At the level of the presidency, the commitment starts at that level. Yeah, you remember there is a saying that says that as a leader, you need to be exemplary. And
lead by example.
Lead by example.
Okay.
And once that is exhibited, then the rest will follow suit.
Thank you so much for that conversation. We truly hope that you manage to achieve your goals and that the public can now we know the public can come to you and report cases of corruption, bribery, and whatever it is. If you're a whistleblower, the Transparency International Uganda offices are the right place to go to. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for coming on the show. That has been the discussion. My name is Malaki Villa of Dera. Morning at 10 TV still continues. On the Ground is next.